Thank you all for attending. Please feel free to put questions in the chat. I can't see it during the session, but we should have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So hi, welcome to benefits. What are they? Dreary but important questions to ask about a job offer. I'm Kyle Lady. I'm a former member of the HKN Board of Governors. I served as a student governor for 2 years and then a 3-year term like as a governor as well. In my day job, I am director of security engineering for the Cisco Security Business Group. Okay. Here's our agenda. There are lots of aspects to a job offer beyond just the salary. So I'm going to try to touch on some important questions that you should make sure you understand before accepting a job offer, or important aspects to be aware of in order to compare job offers. So we're going to get started with retirement savings. So the key to retirement savings is compound interest. I'm sure we have all learned about it at some point. We're going to look at an example. Let's say we have Jack and Jill, twins born in the year 2000, who are just about to start in the job market. And for the sake of an example, we're going to assume that their investments gain 7% every year, which stocks are not predictable, but that's a pretty good long-term return. Okay, so let's say that when they're 25, Jill decides to start saving $3,000 a year. And Jack is just enjoying having a job and having a paycheck. 10 years later, Jill stops. It's probably not a good idea to stop saving, but for the sake of this comparison, we're going to say that she saves for 10 years between 25 and 35. Jack all of a sudden panics because he's now 35 and retirement looks a little closer. So he starts saving $3,000 a year, all the way up until when they both retire in 2065. You'll note that Jill has contributed a total of $30,000, while Jack has contributed $90,000. And the question is, how much do they have saved up for retirement? Even though Jill hadn't been saving for the last 30 years, and only invested a third of what Jack did, she comes out ahead because she started soon. So, you should start soon with as much as you can. Employers provide retirement plans. Some are defined benefits. These are pensions. They're a lot less common than they used to be, but sometimes they're most common in government, like government roles, where you get guaranteed payments based on your income and how long you work, and so you just get guaranteed $2,000 a month every month, for the rest of your life once you retire. Those have really fallen out of favor for what's called defined contribution plans, where you don't know what your benefits are going to be, but you have specific contributions. You invest money out of your paycheck. So a 401k is a type of account that's provided by an employer. All of these have tax advantages. So these, you can also open up just a regular investment account, but everything you do there will be taxed. So the key is to reduce your tax burden. So 401ks are provided by an employer. IRAs, individual retirement accounts, are opened directly by you. You just go to anything, and any brokerage, and you can open one up. And a health savings account, which is usually provided by an employer as well as part of a certain type of health insurance plan, which we will get to. So to make things complicated, because it's not gonna, it will never be simple. That would just be too easy. So there are two types of 401k and IRA: traditional and Roth. So at a high level, let's go through just what the differences are. So big differences are how taxes work when you pay in and when you take out. So in a traditional either IRA or 401k, when you pay in, that's money that gets taken out of your paycheck before taxes are calculated. Or if it's an IRA, you put money in, you put money in throughout the year, and then when you file your taxes, you're able to take that as a deduction to say like, no, the money I put in after taxes, I should actually get my tax back on it. When you take it out, you pay regular income tax. So the key is that you pay less tax now, and there's an immediate benefit to you. With Roth, you pay regular income tax on the amount that you're like going to invest, but when you take it out, there are no taxes. So Roth accounts have an income limit. Once you make a certain amount of money, you are able to contribute less and less until a hard limit, and you may never see the benefit because the benefit comes when you take it out, and if you die before then, you've paid taxes on all the money that you invested, and you don't get any benefit. The advantage to Roth is if you think that you're likely to be earning more in retirement than you're currently making, and so you get to lock in a lower tax bracket now, and then not have to pay taxes then. There are also contribution limits. You can contribute to both a 401k and an IRA. These are annual, and this is the 2021 limit. They usually go up by about $500 every year. For 401k, you have to pick traditional or Roth. Since it's through your employer, you get one. For IRAs, technically, you can have both, but ultimately, there's a cap of $6,000 contribution in total across one or more IRAs of either type. So let's get into where you need to understand the details of a job offer. So some employers match your 401k contributions. It's optional. But you also need to make sure that you understand what the details are. Some questions to ask: when does the employer start matching? I think most employers do, on day one, but there's like about 20% that have some sort of limit. Like you have to work there for a year before they start matching your contributions. What ratio? Is it dollar for dollar? A pretty common approach is 50 cents for every dollar that you've invested, the company will then match. And what's the limit? It's usually a percentage of your income. Typical amounts are from 3 to 5% of your income. And does the match vest, which is to say that if you leave the company before a certain amount of time, they can take back their contribution. They can take back some or all of what they contributed to your 401k. So, depending on these options, an employer match could look, more or less attractive, especially, what the question about does it vest? Uh, an example, that I pulled because this is what my employer's 401k is. Starting on day one, you can get matched 1-to-1. It's up to 4.5% of your income, and there's no vesting, there's no clawback if you leave. So when you invest in a 401k, typically you don't get to just invest anywhere in the stock market. Your plan will have a set number of funds that you can choose from. A good plan has lots of options that have low fees. A bad plan has fewer options with higher fees. A bad plan still isn't a bad idea because you have free money on the table. It's not going to be as good of an investment overall, but if you don't have a choice, you make sure you get the employer match because the price is, historically, the price will go up, and especially on the retirement time frame. So, make sure that you get that free money. If you aren't particularly experienced or don't want to spend time doing a lot of education, one common easy option are target date funds, where you pick the year you might retire, and they have a fund for that. Right, like a target date 2050 and 2055 and 2060, and basically over the years, it starts off pretty aggressive, and then transitions to more stable, more reliable investments as you approach that target date, so that you don't face the chance of of a volatile stock market, wiping out your earnings when you think that you're about to need them. These might be more conservative than you want, and they might not be as diverse of investments as as you might want if you are able to spend the time and have the interest to educate yourself and take a more active approach. But as I note, they're super easy. A lot of times your employer will automatically enroll you in one, if you don't actually go in and select how you want your contributions to be allocated. So that's some of the important questions to understand about the types of retirement plans that come into play, especially when it comes to comparing employers. So let's talk about insurance. So there are three primary types of insurance: health, life, and disability. Disability being that you are unable to perform the job that you've been hired to do, either for short term, which is usually something like 80% of your pay, but there's a time limit, and then longer term has a lower payout, but will last a much longer time. So I know that health insurance can be intimidating. So some definitions that will help you understand what a health plan actually means. So the premium is a routine payment for coverage. If your employer is providing your health insurance, then that just comes out of your paycheck, every 2 weeks or every month or whatever. There's the possibility of buying it directly from an insurer, in which case you'll get to pick and choose from different plans and different premiums. Deductible is the amount that you must pay 100% before insurance starts covering some of your costs. A co-payment or a copay is a fixed fee that you pay for a service. So it might be that for prescriptions, you have to pay $20 for every prescription. And regardless of what the cost of that prescription or service that you received is, there's some fixed cost, like $20 for an office visit. Co-insurance is a fixed percentage that you have to pay. And so, a plan might say that, you have to pay 20% of, the cost of certain procedures. In-network means providers who have signed contracts with your insurers about the prices of essentially how much reimbursement they're willing to receive instead of the official price, because the price that shows up on the healthcare bill is often wildly larger than what your insurance company actually pays. And if they're in network, it means that you have a contract, that your insurer has a contract to say, like, regardless of what you bill for this service, we're going to pay you X. Out of network is everybody else. And usually your health insurer will cover out of network, but to a lesser degree. So there are three main types of health insurance, like essentially different structures of plans. A PPO is the more traditional type of health insurance. It has a lower deductible, but a higher premium. An HMO is a health maintenance organization. It's a lot like a PPO, with more constraints and a slightly lower premium. I'm sorry, my dog is, hey, okay, you're okay. Good girl. An HMO is like a PPO with more constraints and but a slightly lower premium. The biggest thing is that you have to get most specialists and procedures pre-approved to make sure that you're going through a provider that is in network. And then the newest type of health insurance plan is a high deductible health plan, which, as the name suggests, has a high deductible. That means, though, however, you have a lower premium that you pay, monthly or weekly, and they usually have a lower a ceiling of how much you have to pay out of pocket. So there are trade-offs. You might have to pay a PPO deductible might be $500, while an HDHP deductible might be $3,000. HDHPs are also eligible to be paired with health savings accounts, which are, it functions kind of a lot like, the IRA or 401k that we talked about. Your contributions to it go in before taxes. You can invest the funds. You can actually, have the savings account that is invested in the market, and it grows tax-free. And you can withdraw from it tax-free, but only for qualified medical expenses. So, the pro move is to, invest in an HSA and not withdraw from it as you have health expenses, so that a balance can grow over the years, and then as you approach retirement, you'll have health expenses and you have this pool of money to pay from. Life insurance, sometimes it's offered by your company. Sometimes there's like a base level that's free. In my case, my company provides a free level of life insurance that pays out 1 year's salary if you die. You don't really need to pay for life insurance until you have dependents or a partner who you want to make sure has financial support, in the worst case. So there's also disability insurance, which is an optional benefit. You can take what you can get for free. A lot of times there are extra forms to sign. You may be able to increase the coverage with a small extra payment. It's worth looking into, but in my experience, disability insurance in particular has extra forms you have to sign. So that is a fast tour of insurance. Now we're going to talk about types of leave. And this is probably where there's the most variance among companies. And so, it can become difficult to really kind of quantify, which is better. But there are a bunch of types of leave, paid time off or vacation or whatever they might call it. Some places have a separate sick time. Some places say you need to use your PTO if you're sick. Parental leave, and it's often different for whoever's the primary or secondary caregiver. If that's something that you're planning, in the relatively near future, you should, make sure that you understand, the parental leave options. And depending on the company, there are various other types. Here are 3 examples that my company provides. Emergency time off for like when your basement's flooding. Organ donation, like time to recover from that, and adoption, because there's extra time required, time and paperwork and all of that required for adoption. One common trend that you might see is unlimited PTO. It sounds like a nice idea, and I will tell you, I will share with you a story of my journey with unlimited PTO, working for a prior company. At first, they just said, it's unlimited. Please take PTO. We don't care. Just, communicate and it's unlimited. Well, it turns out that people didn't know how much they really were allowed to take. So then they said, okay, unlimited, and we expect a minimum of 15 days every year. And then they started nagging managers with reports saying, it's September and one of your employees has only taken 3 days of PTO. Like, make sure that they schedule it. When by the end of all of this, when that company got acquired, it turns out that 50% of employees took 15 or fewer days every year. And the majority of those that are left were at the like 16 or 17 day level. It is much more stable to just have, a paid time off like balance that you accrue. So I flew through all of those topics because I want to leave some time for questions. So I'm going to close the presentation, and hopefully y'all have some questions that I can dig into. Okay. If you'd like to come on screen to ask a question, you can click share audio video, or ask it in the chat. Bueller. Ah, Hello, Joe.
Hey, how's it going, Kyle?
It's going. Uh, do you have a question that I can answer about benefits?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess the question I had is, well, first of all, thanks for the talk.
Yeah,
this taught me a lot, so I
I'm glad.
sincerely appreciate it. Yeah, and I guess the question I had is, I'm currently a PhD student, so I'm
Right.
26. I'm about halfway through my program. I still have a couple of years before I can, break free from the PhD cycle and make that real world engineering money. So I guess in terms of when it comes to benefits or more concrete practices like saving or investing in retirement or stuff like that, how does this conversation apply for people who have a long-term path of being a student?
That's an excellent question. One thing, one thing that I think is valuable to uh, take advantage of, if you do some sort of an internship, a lot of times interns can open like an IRA, or interns can open a 401k.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
yeah, and when you leave a job, um, uh, and Gene actually asked this exact question. So we'll hit two birds with one stone. Um, when you leave a job, you can either leave that 401k open, but like you could then accumulate them over your career. What is
Oh,
more valuable is, so you can it's there's what's called rollover. So you can
mhm.
either uh, essentially tell Fidelity, like, hey, I'm moving to a new job. Send me a check for the balance of my 401k. And because this is all reported on taxes, you can't just like keep the check.
Sure. Makes
You
sense.
will There will be all sorts of tax penalties.
Oh,
So
yeah.
you get a check and then you send it over to your new place at Charles Schwab. Sometimes it can be done in immediately through the back end. Sometimes you have to like manually move the money.
Got
Um,
it.
so you can roll it over to a new 401k with a new employer, or to an IRA, which, remember, is an account that you've opened in your name just on your own.
I see.
Um, so yeah, I was able to take advantage of this. One summer as an intern, opened up in this case, because as an intern, I expected that my income then was less than what I'd be making in retirement, which means that a Roth is a better choice since it's taxed money
Okay.
now. So, I opened up a Roth 401k with the employer, and then when I left, I think I like got an email or got something in the mail, and so I rolled it over into a Roth IRA. Now, I am fortunate enough to make more than you're allowed to and still contribute to a Roth IRA, but that doesn't mean that that money goes away. So it's still money that's been invested and is sitting around, and I can take out for retirement. And if my income ever drops below the contribution level, then I can start contributing again.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um, okay. Michael asked, "Do you have advice for someone negotiating the first benefits package?" Yes. Um, Most of the things with numbers that I showed, a lot of times those are fixed and not particularly negotiable. You're not likely to negotiate a better 401k match, if only due to like the practicalities of the company having one special case just for you. Something like paid time off might be a little more flexible, but in reality, the most leeway you have is, instead of trying to get a you know better matching or better health insurance, or you know more leave days, is to figure out some other perk that would be valuable to you. So maybe you negotiate that you want to work from home a certain number of days a week, or like negotiate that you'll have a flexible schedule, and you could work in the morning and then go pick up the kids and work from home in the afternoon. Maybe they agree to pay for a home office equipment for you. Stuff like that is a lot easier to make happen than actually changing kind of the like defined packages. Let's see. For some reason, I'm not seeing any of the chat, but Michael is texting it to me. Yeah, Stacy asked, besides wages, which benefits are most important to consider when you receive an offer? If you're planning on having a child, parental leave. It's not required at all by law, and some companies have pretty harsh parental leave policies, and some have very generous. Just as a point of reference, at my current company, the primary caregiver gets 14 weeks off, and the secondary caregiver gets 4 weeks off that have to be taken sometime during the first 14 weeks. So like a lot of people do like 2 weeks off and then they come back for a week and then take a week off and back for a week and a week off. So like that's still not a great package, honestly. But it is a lot better than what a lot of employers offer. I know that a lot of people save up their vacation days so that they can extend their parental leave. So that might be the most important one if that's something that you are reasonably anticipating. Yeah, let's see. At what point in the interview process is it socially acceptable to ask about benefits? Some professors mentioned to me to never ask about pay or benefits on the first interview. Is that right? Probably that's probably right for the first interview. The interview process, to be clear, like we are in a profession that's in demand, and so you are interviewing the company just as much as they are interviewing you. So depending on the process, I would say don't ask like the hiring manager about benefits, but you will usually be in contact with a recruiter or a recruiting coordinator or somebody from HR, and they might do a phone screen with you early on, or be helping coordinate throughout the process. They're the best person to go and ask because their opinion of you doesn't matter. It's the hiring manager who matters, and often, honestly, hiring managers don't know the details. If you ask about specific benefits, so it will just be kind of awkward then. So yeah, talk to the recruiter, or if you've only ever talked to the hiring manager, ask to talk to someone in HR about benefits, right? Then it's just it doesn't sound like you being greedy. It's just I want to talk so I understand. From Rabin, great talk, graduate student as well. My school has something called voluntary savings plans. Is that something worth looking into? Are there options even if you didn't go through with an internship? I think I'm not familiar with voluntary savings plans specifically. I think that you should try to start saving for retirement as soon as you can, even if it's small amounts. And you first and foremost want to take advantage of anything that is tax advantaged. So I mentioned those 401ks and IRAs in the US are a way to get tax advantages. And so if you have a private investing account as well, you should make sure that you first fill up all of the tax advantages before just putting money in like a standard investment account where you'll get taxed on it. You get taxed on earnings. You get taxed, if you sell a stock and then buy some other stock, you get taxed on that sale. yeah, it's really it's kind of boring, but the way to be most successful with saving is uh, take advantage of taxes, and two, be aware of fees. All funds, if you're investing in like mutual funds, which a lot of picking and choosing stocks is pretty risky. So a lot of people pick mutual funds, which are collections of stocks and other securities. And they all charge an annual fee. That's some percentage of what you have invested in it. And so over 30 years, you know, even the difference between like I think a pretty low one is like 0.13%. If you 0.13% versus 0.85%, as you put more and more money and it grows more and more, sometimes that's the difference between, it can be the difference between your value going up in a year and your value going down in a year. Okay. What is the best way to deal with debt, especially college loans? That's a great question. At the first and foremost level, remember like the very first slide about compound interest and how it was super great when you're saving. Turns out it is just as powerful when it's the interest rate on your loan or your debt. So you should focus on paying off whatever debt has the highest interest rate first, often credit cards. Sometimes there are options for consolidating debt. And so, you go to some company that will, pay off everything you owe to, two different credit card companies and give you a lower overall interest rate, and then you have to pay that company back. Student loans. Student loans are tricky, especially because, as it's well known, in the U.S. they are, I believe, the only type of debt that can't be discharged when you file bankruptcy. So like if something catastrophic happens and you have to file bankruptcy, your student loans still stick around afterward, even if other debt got reduced or so-called discharged. I think that it's a complicated balance between paying down debt and investing for retirement. And I think the advice that I would give is to look at the interest rates. If we say that the stock market returns 7% on average, you're probably better putting $100, in a retirement account and letting that grow at 7% than paying $100 toward a debt that is only growing at 2%. And vice versa, right? Like credit cards have extremely high interest rates. It is absolutely in your best interest to pay that down as fast as possible. Even if it means not investing for retirement for a couple of years. What is the best way to handle a job offer that is less than what was advertised as far as benefits and compensation? That's a great question. I think that, like I said, the interview process is, you interviewing the company as well. If it's just outright not what you were, promised, or even if, you have like a soft agreement with someone and, you get something that's drastically different. I think that is absolutely valid professional grounds to renege on an offer that you've accepted. Right? Like if you accept it and then find out that like there are skeletons in the proverbial closet, sometimes you'll get advice that's like never renege on an offer you've accepted. I don't think you can say never. because like something like that would be, you know, that's pretty severe. You know, I think it's worth having a conversation with, you know, like your recruiter or HR person at the company to, you know, see what can be done. You know, certainly explain what happened. If nothing else, you know, they want to know why they would be losing someone that they wanted to hire. Um, so yeah, that'd be a tough situation. But you know, I think you can handle it politely and professionally without being obligated to stick in that job. Okay, it looks like we are just a minute or so past the official end. So I thank you all for joining.
Thank you so much.